Hey everyone, I trust this finds you doing well and you had a great Thanksgiving, great Christmas, and hopefully an upcoming New Year. I've been a little under the weather, spending time with family, so I have not been doing videos as often. I just got a lot of really, a lot of really awesome things I want to talk about in 2022. I'm really looking forward to kind of being a little more consistent with the videos once the holidays end. So hopefully you can find it in your heart to forgive me for that. What I do want to talk about is the DeFi as a service space because I feel like this video's kind of a good one to end the year with. And I just want to thank everybody, man, almost 20,000 subscribers. And I know that that's not a lot compared to some channels, and that's great. I think I started this back in, was it September 2021, and we're now December 31st. And, there's kind of a couple of different ways I see people run their channels, and there isn't no right way or wrong way, by the way, but this is just an observation, is that a lot of people will machine gun videos out every single day, or sometimes several times a day. And then the other approach, the other side to that spectrum is sort of like a marksman. You take one good clean shot and you get one good video out every so often. That's kind of more the approach that I take. I don't want to come and talk about something unless there's something to talk about. And this is far from a full-time thing, YouTube, or even a part-time thing. So this, I'm involved with so many projects and just different things, just in life in general. I really don't have the capacity to put out a video every single day. And some people are in the middle of that spectrum too, where every other day or every few days. So I hope to maybe put out a video a couple times a week in 2022, because kind of my goal with that. But the DeFi as a service space, we need to talk about it because it's getting really, really dangerous. That's the word I'll use. This is going to be a visual heavy video. I made a flow chart showing how these projects work from a tokenomics perspective. Now, not all of them work the way I'm going to show you. Okay, I'm going to use a cuss word and say ring, because that's kind of a four-letter word. It is a four-letter word at this point. I'm going to show you Ring's tokenomics. I'm going to show you how not all of the projects, but many of them, I'd say 90% or more, copy this same model because they all forked Ring. And then, what was happening was the forks of Ring were getting forked. But the problem is the original fork forked a failed economic model. So like a house of cards, you're seeing like in Jenga, where you pull maybe the bottom blocks out and the whole thing comes crumbling. That's exactly what's happening because there's a failed economic model that Ring created, and everybody's forking a failed model. Or most people, I'll say. Most people are forking a failed model. I'm going to show you my experience as I've been watching this space just from the shadows silently. I haven't really been saying anything about it because I want to let things play out. I don't like coming out right away and saying, oh, Ring's a scam, this is a scam, that's a scam, because scam is the most overused word probably in the English dictionary by retail investors. It just is. So I wanted to kind of wait and watch and just see what's happening with the space. And I feel like I've waited long enough, and I kind of can see what's happening now. I can see the rugs. I can see the scam marketing. As an entrepreneur, I know when I'm being marketed to, and I know when someone's speaking the truth and when they're being a little dishonest, just from a marketing and branding perspective. So I feel like I've seen enough. So I'm going to show you, kind of walk you through at least what I've been seeing this whole time, ever since Ring was the first one that came on board. All of the projects that have followed. I'm going to give you my thoughts on a few projects, ones that you guys probably really like, and some of them that you probably really hate. And that is what it is. But I'm going to give you the truth and nothing but the truth, because that's what I'm here to talk about, is just my thoughts and what I'm doing. And you have to make your own decision. You need to do your own research, and don't listen to a guy on YouTube or Twitter. But these are my thoughts, and you don't need to share them. You can, say that I don't know what I'm talking about. That's perfectly fine. I'm not an economist, but I don't feel like you need to be an economist in order to figure this space out quite a bit, to see what's going on, especially when you've, been observing for some time. So let's go ahead and get into it, and we'll talk a little bit more at the end. Okay, so we're looking at dexscreener.com. Just as a side note, I like DexScreener more than Dex Tools because Dex Tools is missing some blockchains. I believe they're missing Avalanche. They may have added it by now, but I've already migrated to DexScreener. DexScreener is a great website that will show you charts and price action, buying, selling, and live feed, charts and just different things like that for multiple blockchains. So I really recommend Deck Screener. So we're looking at Ring here. I first found Ring, let's see, it was about $14, so I must have found it right here on the 21st. Okay, so I found it at $14. And I did not buy it right away. It came to my attention. I looked it over. Let me show you what their website originally looked like on that, well, right around that day. Okay. This is the very first version of their website that they originally launched with. By the way, you can come look up their version of their website yourself if you'd like. Just use waybackmachine.org, type it in, ring.financial, and you'll see different snapshots of their website. Okay, well, I'll show you that in a second here. So this is from November 6th of 2021. This is the very first iteration, or at least the very first iteration that was captured, of their website here. Now you may say, well, that's not fair because that's the first version. What if they change something? Okay, fair enough. So let me go back here. We'll go to a different one. We'll go to, how about the 22nd? That's right around when I found it. Okay, fair enough. I don't believe much changed. And yeah, nothing really changed. But okay, fair enough. We'll look at the 22nd. So this is what I first saw. Now let me tell you what turned me off right away. First of all, like I said, I have, experience running and building businesses in e-commerce, 7-figure businesses. So I know marketing when I see it. I know when I'm being BS'd and when I'm not. I have kind of a very sensitive BS barometer, I would say. And let me tell you what I first thought when I saw this. So I'm just going to scroll down real quick here, okay? I don't know if any of you know what a sales funnel is. Some of you do know what a sales funnel is. This is one massive sales funnel, and that's fine. Like, you want to sell your project. I get it. You don't want to be boring. I'm just telling you. This is one massive sales funnel to get people to take action on something. That's fine. It's just something I noticed right off the bat. So let's look at the text in red here for a second. First of all, enjoy 2,600% lifetime rewards with Ring. There is no such thing as lifetime rewards. That does not exist. Anybody that tells you lifetime rewards, you better run the other way, okay? In my opinion. There is no such thing as lifetime rewards. It does not exist. Okay, so anytime you hear lifetime rewards, big red flag, and it's in red. So red flag, red flag, right? So let's look at this for a minute. New yield generating protocol. Ring aims to combine the returns from 30 plus DeFi protocols carefully selected by our team and redistribute the yield to you. Okay? Hence, your risk is minimized and your fees are erased. Okay? Hassle-free. High return. Again, lifetime rewards does not exist. There is no such thing as lifetime anything. Okay? They used to say the only thing in life were death and taxes. That's not even true because a lot of people don't pay taxes. So, okay. And then you have diversification and security. Okay, clearly that was not accurate. Your assets will be maximized. And then over here, you won't have to pay, except there's a tax, which they don't even tell you about. We're going to get into the whole tokenomics in a minute, actually not in a minute, in a little bit. I'm just showing you what I was first looking at, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want anything to do with this because I'm seeing stuff you won't have to pay. I mean, you won't have to pay. You won't have to pay fees that add up each time you want to try a new protocol. Okay, well, if you're not on Ethereum, there's very little fees that you pay anyway, but they're actually charging you a fee. We'll get into that. You won't need to conduct due diligence for every new platform you want to use. Our team of DeFi veterans handle it. So who are the DeFi veterans? I don't even know. I don't even know if we ever found out. Then they basically go down, they start talking about how to buy it and so on. So there is a white paper. Now, I'm not going to go into the white paper too much because I actually have that in a flow chart that I'm going to show you. But what really, really bothered people was this word of nodes. Okay. This is basically, it appeared like a fork of strong block. Originally, this is what the UI first looked like, the user interface, when you went to actually build these quote-unquote nodes. This looks a little familiar, doesn't it? It does, because it should be. This is basically a copy of Strong. I mean, they didn't even bother to change the interface. They just changed the coloring and some verbiage. That's it. When I first found this that day, it was you needed 100 ring tokens, and it was you earned 5.56. 24 hours later, not maybe less than 24 hours later, then literally the next day it was 10 to earn 0.556. And I thought, okay, first of all, where is it? Your website says that, it doesn't even say it. I thought it said decentralized. It says diversification, but the point is that there's no voting that happened here. And how do you feel about a protocol that can literally on a whim, on a dime, change the requirements and the rewards at any moment? They did this, Katana did it, Thor did it, Power did it, Soldier did it, they all did it, okay? I'm going to show you. Okay, I'm going to show you. Louverture did it. I know people love Louverture. It's the best thing since sliced bread. But I'm going to show you some things that I don't like, okay? Obviously, look, if you need more sustainability like Strong Block, you do a halvening, fine. But you don't do it within the first 48 hours of launching. You don't do it within the first 2 weeks of launching. I think Strong Block was 7 or 8 months into the project before that even happened. And they were very they could have been clearer with their community, but they definitely told you, hey, we are going to do a halvening at some point. And they made it very clear. So anyway, it was like things are being changed here on a whim. So let me show you what else I did not like. I saw that, obviously, let's talk for a second here before I do that. This word node, it really pissed people off. What do you mean nodes? These are not nodes. And that's 100% right. These are not nodes. The reason they use the word nodes is because they're piggybacking off the marketing. There are trigger words in this passive income crypto community. Nodes, DAOs, staking, passive income, yield, these are all trigger words, okay? So they just copied Strong's model, not their model, I'm sorry. They copied Strong's interface. They called it nodes, piggybacking off that trigger word for branding and marketing purposes. And then they basically created a hedge fund, a crypto hedge fund. We're going to invest in the projects for you with lifetime returns on your nodes. It's the most deceptive. It's one thing to market. I mean, marketing is about getting people to buy things that they typically wouldn't buy, by gaining their attention, focusing on emotions, pain points, solutions, all that type of stuff. That's fine. There's a difference between legitimate marketing and illegitimate, sleazy, scamming, deceitful marketing. Very big difference. And this is the latter category here. Okay, but if you think this is bad, let me show you what else I saw when I first saw this. Speaking of sleazy marketing, okay? I got some screenshots I'm going to show you of some Twitter accounts. This is, again, the very first day that I saw it. Must have been the 21st of November. Let me show you what I saw. I saw all of a sudden all these accounts popping up all over Twitter. Basically, they had 0 followers. They were literally just created. They had no posts. And they were all doing the same thing of tagging random people, using hashtags, sharing the Ring Financial official Twitter account, some girl in a bikini kind of situation, okay? So when I say sleazy marketing, I mean literally sleazy marketing. Thanks for giving us such a great opportunity. I'm supporting it. Always success for the development team. To the moon. Number 1. Number 2. Zoom in a little bit. I really believe this project will really go a long way to put a smile on our face. I hope this project will develop well and we'll be on the moon. Same thing again. Number 3. Another one. By the way, all these accounts were like literally just made, 0 followers, the whole shooting match. And by the way, Ring's official page had like 40,000 followers, so you knew they bought their followers, right? Thank you for your support. Same thing. That's what? Number 3. Number 4, same thing. Again. And number 5, same thing again. So you get the point where I'm going with. I saw, wait a minute. Well, I know what this is basically, actually number 6 down here, you can see another one. It was just on and on and on. So fake followers, spam bots, copying the UI of Strong, promising something that they cannot ever promise with lifetime rewards. They don't even tell you how to. There was no white paper when this launched, by the way. There was nothing. It's not just sleazy marketing, it's lazy marketing. And if you think this is sleazy and this is lazy, well, let me wait until I show you the actual tokenomics behind this. Now, obviously, we can pick on Ring all day. We all know what happened with Ring. They basically abandoned Ring and created X Ring. They didn't migrate anybody over. So once they hit like 100,000 quote unquote, nodes, which are not nodes, they basically said, yeah, we're going to create a new project called X Ring. And we're going to abandon everybody that built these nodes on the Binance Smart Chain, the original Ring token. And you can see almost $500 down to $4.51. It is still higher than their new token, which has absolutely crashed into the ground. They tried to fork themselves and utterly failed at doing it. Now, will they fix things? Will this turn around? Will this go back to $300 or $400? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. I'm going to show you their model, and if you see their model, you know how completely unsustainable not just Ring is, but everybody who forked this failed model. Okay, you have a failed model that continuously got copied, so everybody copied a failed model. Now, there are some people that made some tweaks that are going to be probably around for longer. Okay, there is only one project that I see has kind of fixed this problem that I'm not going to get into, this video, but let me show you. So basically, I call this a rug. You rugged everybody here and went over here, only to have an even worse token, okay? I mean, you call it what you want. I call this a rug, okay? And, we can come up with some different terminology if you want. Let's go ahead and look at the failed models, and I'm just going to literally scratch the surface, and I'm going to pick on some projects, I should say, that you probably really like in the DeFi as a service space. One of the rugs was Arcane Nodes, I think it was called. You can see this, almost $140 down to a penny. Twitter account gone, nowhere to be seen. No liquidity. They ripped the liquidity out, And of course, when you have a falling token price because the founders sell off, or whoever rugged it sells off, and they exit all the liquidity, that means you can't get out. And even if you could, what are you going to sell it at 99%? Loss. I mean, I guess you would have to. And you got Brig. Everybody knows about Brig. What Brig did, let me tell you. So they basically said, oh, we just have too many challenges. We can't move forward anymore. We can't do the project anymore. It's not sustainable. So we're so sorry. So long for now. We will return with greater diligence for you all. Let me tell you what I call it. I call this a legal rug. Okay, because there's no, technically, and I'm not an attorney on this, okay, there's really no law against a failing project. The project fails, I mean, who are you going to go after? Whereas, if you just exit and run away, you actually stole people's money. But if you come out and say, oh, you know what, we can't do this anymore, it's just not sustainable, goodbye, and they do the same thing, it's just basically a project fails. I call this a legal rug. Then, of course, we had Cybernode, which might have been the quickest rug in history. I think this rugged within like 20 minutes after it launched. And somebody escaped with almost $2 billion, with a B, dollars, $1.844 billion in 20 or 30 minutes. I mean, why would you take a gun and rob a bank when you can basically create a fake DeFi as a service project, get everybody to ape in, and then just pull it out in 20 minutes? This is a modern day criminal, is exactly what this is, a modern day criminal. And one that just happened recently, Nodon. I apologize for having to share this news with you, but unfortunately, we have reached a point of no return, even with our marketing deployment. And they're basically, here's what they're doing. We have 3 options left, and we're going to leave it up to you. Continue the marketing, which I already said is not working. Let it continue to the end and distribute the treasury cash. We'll give you $20 per node. We stop all the marketing, remove the liquidity, and distribute the liquidity as cash flow. We'll give you $50 per node. Thank you for believing in us. We did our best to make the project live, but sometimes it just doesn't work. So this is, I call this like a fancy legal rug. This is like what Brig did, but they're giving, we're going to let you decide basically how we rug this. That's exactly what this is. Now I'm going to pick on another project that some of you may not like, but it is what it is. Soldier nodes. Good old soldier nodes. So let's look at this for a minute. The soldier node battle is coming to an end. I'm not going to play the audio. They probably spent more money on this video than they did actually developing and pushing this project. I'll be honest with you. It's a nice video. It's actually a pretty cool video. And so basically what they say is, oh, the battle's coming to an end, but the war has just begun. So I actually thought they had a pretty cool branding innovation. Okay, I thought the branding was really interesting. I thought, okay, the tokenomics are not really all too different, but the branding's kind of cool. That's kind of what I thought. The marketing and branding was very interesting. Basically, their token was SLD, and they called the token soldiers, and they called the nodes armies. And they were going to create like games around it. They're supposed to create a Risk game, which has never been done. Oh, they promised they're going to do it though, so I'm sure they'll do it, right? And they created this like really stupid like lottery game where you basically like go in there and you put your nodes, your armies up as lotteries, and you might win, you might not. It really made no sense. And so anyway, they had this idea of creating games around it. It was actually kind of a cool idea. I mean, I give them props for innovating on the idea, but let's go read. So if you get this video, I'll stop it. And they have a Medium article. Now, mind you, this is December 27th that they posted this. That will be important in a minute. But let's go read their Medium article. From soldier nodes to soldier protocol. Okay. So basically they go through the launch, how they screwed up more, how they killed the project, how they nuked the project, etc., etc., etc. I mean, let me tell you something. With soldier nodes, it was like literally every other day there was a problem. It was like a new patch, a new migration, rewards aren't working, armies are disappearing, they're not showing up, you can't claim, on and on. It never stopped with these people. It was like the worst developers that I'd seen. All right, so this is a key point that I want to show you in this. So basically the idea is, hey, we're not going to support this anymore, but we have other projects coming up and you're going to get in on them. So I'm sure you can trust that they really have other projects that you really are going to be interested in, right? These NFTs will be used to vote in our DAO system. There has been no DAO, by the way. I'm going to go into that as well. This project has no DAO. There is no on-chain governance. There is no proposals. There is no on-chain voting. It didn't happen. You know how they did it? They did it worse than anybody. They basically created a freaking poll on Twitter, and they called that their DAO. So you could have literally had any spam bots come in and vote on whatever you wanted. You didn't even have to hold the token to vote. It's utter nonsense. It's what I call a lazy DAO. Let me show you what I really want to show you in here, which is... I probably won't be able to find it now. Let's see here. There we go, right here. What about soldier nodes? The SLD token is not our priority. Right here. The SLD token. So basically they went from saying, hey, come and buy the SLD token to build these armies to, hey, the SLD token is not our priority anymore. Okay? Let me tell you what I call this. You know what I call this? Here, you can see. Isn't this a beautiful chart? Look at this. $22 basically down to 22 cents. There you go. This is what I call a, let me stroke your hair and rub your back and say, there, it's going to be okay while I rug you. Rug me, but don't tell me you're rugging me. That's exactly what I call this. Okay? All right. Now we're going to look at some ones that are going to press some buttons, I'm sure. First, I'm going to look at Power. Now, Power and Thor tried to create what is called a union of transparency. Okay, I love the idea actually, because as I'm watching this space, I'm thinking, man, people are just getting ripped apart left and right. We need to create some sort of functional, I don't know what you want to call it, group or something that is transparent, open, how they're doing it, what they're doing, etc. So I love the idea. That's why I said I'm in full alignment with trying to bring more transparency, honesty, and integrity to these new DeFi as a service projects. Let's allow projects to flourish and people to not keep getting hurt by greed and selfishness. And they said, we appreciate you share the same mentality. So why am I picking on Power? The reason I'm picking on Power is because they have part of the same sort of failed economics. Because remember, they forked, this was a complete fork of Thor. Thor is a fork of basically Ring and Katana, except they fixed the smart contract hack. If you really believe that was a hack, I have my own opinions on it, but nonetheless, they fixed the smart contract vulnerability. So we could say Power is sort of, we could say it's a fork of Ring, maybe once or twice removed, okay? It's basically a fork of the same failed economic model, and Thor is a failed economic model. I'll show you in a minute. So you can see this even more beautiful chart. Was it $168 all the way down to $6.33? And what I don't like is that not only do they have a failed economic model, so I like the idea of being transparent, but in honesty and integrity, I want that. I want projects to flourish and people to not keep getting hurt by greed and selfishness. However, these projects have greed and selfishness. If you look at the tokenomics, which we're going to look at in a moment, I'm just kind of walking you through my journey here. And the recent AMA, I think it was yesterday, Power is just like the founders are attacking the developers, and it's become a dumpster fire, frankly. You know, it is what it is. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Still using the word nodes, by the way, even though they changed it in their user interface, they still use the word here. Again, marketing, and deceitful marketing at that. Okay. Let's look at Thor, because everybody loves Thor. Everybody thinks Thor is going to make it. And I hate to tell you, my opinion, this is just my opinion, Thor ain't going to make it. And I'm going to tell you why they're not going to make it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our concept of sustainability. They're basically admitting here that they are not sustainable. So they give you 0.7 in return, just like Power gives you 0.7 in return. And they create this union of transparency where basically the developers would help each other. They'd be open and transparent, even though not everybody has doxed themselves. And maybe rightfully so. I mean, they're getting death threats and all sorts of stuff. So, I mean, I get it. I'm just saying, you're using the word nodes still, even though they changed it, but they're still using the word nodes. Okay, so I don't, how transparent are you really being? Especially, so let me tell you my biggest problem with these. Well, I have a lot of problems. Let me tell you one of the biggest ones with these projects, okay? And this isn't limited to just the ones I'm showing you. It's pretty much all of them. They offer an extremely high reward rate to draw people in, and then they cut it dramatically, and not very long after. It could be a couple weeks after. Maybe it's a month after. In most cases, it's a couple weeks after they launched a project. Everybody's hyped about it. Oh, I'm going to earn 5,000%. I'm going to earn 2,000% a year. Oh, no, actually, we're cutting it by like 80%, 90%, 50%, whatever. And they do it very shortly after it launches, because what they're doing is they are pulling people in. They are corralling people in with a false promise of high rewards, then they cut it. That's not transparency. That's not a union of transparency. That's BS. That's what that is. Okay? If you're going to do that, you better airdrop something to the people who got in beforehand or something. I don't even know. I mean, really shouldn't even do that, because you're just going to dump the project further. And then they've got this whole, what they call a vote on how they're going to do this, and we're going to cut it, and we're going to change this, and they're going to do that. Let me tell you something. They are kicking the can down the road. This is a completely unsustainable model. It will fall on its face. I hope I'm wrong, because I don't want to see people get hurt. I'm telling you what I'm telling you as my opinion, and I'm going to show you some things when you get to the tokenomics part, why these are all unsustainable. They basically forked Ring, fixed a few things, and they're offering even higher rewards than Ring. And Ring itself is not sustainable. Okay? Now, their branding's really good with all the different fractionalized things that they have. I don't even know what you want to call them. They're not nodes. Smart contracts, I guess. So that's pretty cool. But let me tell you something I always had a problem with a lot of these projects. They claim they have a DAO. There is no DAO here. There is zero DAO. There has never been a DAO. You know what they have? They have a channel on Discord where you go and vote. That ain't a DAO. Okay, that's what I call a lazy DAO. And I was on them from the start. I said, guys, you've got to get on-chain governance. You got to fix this now. Stop with this fake DAO nonsense that you're pushing. There's no DAO here. They basically force you to take a screenshot of your wallet, and then they let you into a Discord to vote, as if that's truly what a DAO is. There's no on-chain governance. There's no code alterations happening on-chain based on a vote of holding the token. It's not a DAO. There's no proposals. There's no governance. It's not a DAO. Louverture. This is the one that I know everyone's going to be upset for me talking about. There's no voting going on here, and I don't think Louverture ever promised a vote, in all fairness. Okay, so they basically promised you 7% a day and then cut it down to 0.5. So they cut you down about 97%. Okay, so this is the exact same example again of when I say they lure you in with a high reward and then they use you as a sacrificial lambs because they're too lazy to figure out their tokenomics in advance. Like, I know this, why not figure this out before you release a project? Why say, hey, we're going to come out with this project, we're going to offer high rewards, and then cut it 97%? I think they've only been around for like 2-3 weeks tops. That tells me you did not have sustainability in mind. You didn't. And there's no vote. Okay, even they say, we've concluded that 7% per day is simply not viable as a DeFi as a service platform. So why did you start with that? So let's do this. I'm going to show you their Medium article for a minute. And they show you the sustainability of their model, 1 day, 3 months, 1 year, 2 years, how much money you're going to make. If you hold this for 2 years, you could make $38 million. Daily return, right? Based on the treasury, based on all this kind of nonsense. It kind of reminds me of when people come on Shark Tank, and I love the show Shark Tank. They'll say, hey, this is a $15 billion industry, and we only need 0.001% to do well. That's exactly the argument they're showing you here. Here's my problem. The LVT team are not looking to make a quick buck, okay? We are not looking 1 week ahead or 1 month, but several years. Okay, so if you were looking several years ahead, why did you come out with a model that was not sustainable beyond like 2 or 3 weeks? If you're really looking several years ahead. Okay, this is their website right now, Louverture. It's a cool website. There's no white paper on here. There's a documentation like what Olympus has. That's not a white paper. They say up to 890% APY. Yeah, if you compound for an entire year, yeah, you get 890%. Okay, it's 180% if you don't compound. So that's already very deceitful. Up to 890%. Yeah, I get it. But you understand how this looks. It looks bad. Okay, I don't like the language. LVT tokens can be considered your gateway to passive, sustainable, I'm going to harp on that for a second here, high yield income that is paid out daily. Okay, this is their website, right? What we're looking at here is an archive of their documentation when they first launched. You know what it says? Enjoy 5,700% APY lifetime rewards. Now, who does that sound like? Lifetime rewards of 5,700%. And this is what it says now. This is their current document. Enjoy at least 180% APR lifetime rewards with Louverture. Same, look at this. Same thing with a different number. So what's really lifetime rewards here? What's actually lifetime? Is it 5,700%? Is it 180%? Is it 890%? Or, up to 890%? Again, sleazy marketing at its finest. I know people are not going to like that I'm picking on Louverture, but I don't really care. This is what their website originally said. December 20th, not even originally, December 23rd, which is only about basically a week ago. 8 days ago. Enter the gateways of DeFi through our yield-producing nodes. Again, they're not nodes. 5,700% APY. And you want to know something? You scroll down. What does it say? LVT tokens can be considered your gateway to passive, sustainable, high-yield income that is paid out daily. Just like their website says right now with a different number. Maybe it's not all that sustainable after all, is it? So what I'm trying to say is, why not figure out your sustainability before you launch? Why use your original investors as a sacrificial lambs because you're too lazy to figure out the sustainability ahead of time? Well, I'll tell you why, in my opinion. It's not laziness. It's that they know it's not sustainable, but they're trying to draw people in with a false promise. And then this is not a rug pull, but it's certainly a partial rug pull for sure. Okay, again, to me it's sleazy. Okay. All right, so this is kind of my overall opinions on these different projects. Louverture will probably be around, honestly, because the rewards are low at this point. I don't know how their tokenomics work. They don't really have a true white paper showing in detail all the questions we would want to know, such as founders tokens, treasury, how the treasury works, how the supply is used, how it's not used, how it's divvied up. There's nothing really, frankly. There's nothing. You can't expect everybody to run in and find a Discord. That's not realistic. You have to be honest and upfront and have a real white paper, not a documentation like Olympus has. That's not a true white paper. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the tokenomics. And if you're sensing anger in my voice, it's because I do have anger in my voice. If you're sensing frustration, it's because I do have frustration, because we're going to look at so we've looked at like the failed projects, we looked at the rugs, we looked at projects that in my opinion are rugging or have rugged, but they're trying to make it out like they haven't. We're looking at projects that are hanging on over a cliff, but they're trying to make it out like, oh, everything's okay. If you remember that GIF where, everything's burning in the background and the guy's like, this is okay. That's basically Thor and Power. There's more projects like that. They're not the only ones, okay? So I'm going to look at the basic tokenomics. Now, we're going to look at the tokenomics of Ring, because most of these projects have all forked Ring. These tokenomics do not apply to all these projects I showed. They don't even apply to all the projects that I haven't showed. But they apply to most of the projects. They function this way that I'm about to show you, except they sometimes have some slight differences in them. I don't have time to go over every single project and how they're exactly different. The point is I'm going to show you Ring because they've been forked the most. Okay, and we're going to talk about, is DeFi as a service legitimate? Is it a scam? Can it work? Or is it just bound to fail no matter what? I'm going to get into that. My opinion will probably surprise you, but it is just my opinion. It's not gospel. But let's start looking at the tokenomics here a little bit. Let me try to zoom in here so we can focus. And I will share this flow chart, by the way. I'll share all the links that I have in this video as well. Okay, let's start with the lack of transparency first. So what a lot of these projects do is they will start off with a very large amount of tokens, 20 million usually, give or take, about 20 million. They will create a founder's allocation, say example 1% of 20 million, so it'd be like 200,000. Say, oh, the founders only have 1% of the tokens. Okay, so far so good, no problem here. However, this is where the deceit begins. Okay, we're already getting into how this is bad. So so far that's good. Then what happens is this. Then they do a token burn. They'll do a token burn of about 95%. So they're basically left with about 1 million tokens. However, the founder's allocation stays at the same number that it was at with 20 million. So they had 1% of 20 million, which is about 200,000. Then they burn 95% of the supply, which means they're left with 1 million, but they still have 200,000. They'll tell you they have 1%, when in reality, they have 20%. Okay, so, and this is oftentimes multiple founders. So sometimes you have, 2 or 3 founders that all have one, quote unquote, air quote, 1% of the token supply, but they burned 95% and they kept 1% of the higher number. Okay, and I'll show you why they do this, but now you have founders that control 40 to 60% of the supply, but nobody really knows it. Or at least if they know it, they're shut down too quickly for them to really make much noise. So why do a token burn? Why not just start with 1 million? I'll tell you the reason they start with 1 million. They don't start with 1 million. We're looking at BSC scan. This is the Binance Smart Chain scan. This is the official Ring token contract. You'll see up here total supply, 20,456,743. Well, that's not true. If you click holders, which I've already done, you'll see 95% of the supply sits in a burner wallet, basically never to be accessed ever again. But because BSC scan sees this it still thinks there's 95% allocated. So all these other tokens, all these other wallets, I should say now, have 1%, 1%, 0.94, 0.55. This is not in reality. In reality, let me tell you what this is in reality. This is 27% right here, which is fine. This is PancakeSwap. They need to have tokens. It's not a problem. But then you have 21% here, 19% here, 11% here, 10% here, 2.1% here, 2.1% here, which, by the way, both of these, I did some tracking before the video. Both of these tokens came from these four. They were moved out, specifically this one, and then they were moved out of, I want to say this one, I believe. Now, one of these is probably the rewards wallet, okay? I don't know which one, don't really care. It's really pointless. One of these is the rewards wallet, one of these might be the treasury, okay? But then there's really only, the white paper describes only two wallets for the functional purposes of the protocol. So why is there four? And why are they controlling such a massive amount of the supply? Even if we just, played the nice card here and said these two are the founders' wallets. Okay, so why do you have over 20% of the supply being locked up by the founders? More than 20%. And these two may have just come out of those two. And why did they split these two up just sitting there? Yeah, okay, we'll go on that in a minute. But I just want to show you the deceitful games that are played here. Okay, they do this so it looks like, oh, go here, you'll see. We only have 1%. Matter of fact, we have less than 1%. No, you don't. You have 20% in total, if these are both founders' wallets. Maybe more if you add these two in there, which they pulled out for whatever purposes. Probably try to make it look like, oh, it goes from 100,000 to 21. See, it doesn't go from 100,000 to 5. It goes from 100,000 to 21. A little more diversified. Okay? So that's what they do. That's how a lot of these founders line their pockets. That's where the deceit begins. All right? Let's go into how this is not sustainable here. And by the way, what I'm about to show you here, we are looking at Ring. I'm not just blowing smoke up your rear end. I'm going to show you right in the white paper where I'm pulling this from. Okay? Right in their white paper, when they go through their tokenomics, where it's not even a full tokenomic explanation, it's a partial one, because there's things they don't tell you in here. I'm going to show you right from the white paper exactly specifically where the problems lie with this model, and I'm going to show it in this flow chart, and I'm going to let you make your own decision, and you tell me if you think the model that I'm showing you is sustainable or not. All right, so let's get into the tokenomics of this. As I tell you this, I want to show you an image really quick, and I want you to keep this image in mind as we go through this. If you don't know, this is called an Ouroboros, and this is basically a snake eating itself. And as I'm looking at this, doesn't this kind of ironically look just like Ring's logo? I just thought that was kind of an interesting kind of moment. Looks just like Ring's logo, so sometimes life imitates art. I want you to keep that in mind as we go through this. So, again, this is Ring's model. It's not every single model. I would say maybe it's modest compared to some other models. Because remember, Ring was forked first. Okay, so a lot of these other projects forked a failed model. Okay, not all of them. Some of them have some slight differences, but this is Ring. So let's go this. So 10 tokens for a quote-unquote node. Okay, and you have the following. As 10 tokens are required, by the way, this is not even factoring in how 30 to 50% discounts are constantly run, which is, creating less buying. Now, the math works out the same with all this, but it's just creating less buying pressure kind of overall, okay? It's part of the Ouroboros. Here's what happens. You have 5%. I'm going to show this to you right in the white paper. Let me get the white paper open as we're doing this. Okay, so this is their white paper. Let's go down to page 9, right here. Zoom in a little bit. Okay, so here's how this works. Distribution of community contribution. So when you create a node, air quote node, 10% goes into liquidity. 50% of that goes into Binance Coin, because that's how liquidity pools work. You have to have a 50-50 even split, which means 5% is sold off. Okay, now if you go back, we have 5% going into liquidity. Okay, you have 20% that gets sold off that goes into marketing/team. Right here, you have 20% marketing to team pool as 100% Binance Coin. So that is a 100%, 20% selling pressure. Okay, so 20% of it gets sold off immediately into nothing but Binance Coin. That's why you see 20% there. Now, you see 23% into treasury. These are in quotes for a reason, and I'll show you that in a second. Plus more expenses. I'll show you that too. And you see that right here. So you have, so this is the interesting thing. They tell you 7 of your tokens go into quote unquote rewards. Well, that's not true, because 30% of those are sold off. So 30% of the 70% is sold off. And that equals roughly about 23%, give or take, of the overall 10 tokens. That's what that represents. Okay? My math might be a little off there, but it's about 23%, give or take. So that's where the 23% comes into. And they will explain right here, as the project is still under development, which is interesting because they still do this, and it's been out for almost 2 months. So I want you to keep that in mind, how this is worded. The 30% BNB part of the reward pool, which is right here, is used to finance the development of the Ring DeFi allocation protocol, which is a fancy way of saying salaries, okay, including R&D, cybersecurity, current reward distribution system fees, which I'm assuming is basically gas fees on the Binance Smart Chain network, okay, and or it could be something else. And legal and compliance, which I don't know, maybe they have legal and compliance now, but I don't know why they would have any legal and compliance expenses at all. So they are taking that out of your rewards. 30% of what's supposed to go back into your rewards are pulled out for salaries, R&D, security, quote unquote. I'm thinking reward distribution system fees, and whatever legal and compliance, which is probably very minimal. Maybe it's higher now because of everything, but it's very minimal. Okay, they're taking out of your rewards to do that. Okay, there's a reason I put that in quote unquote treasury, and I'll show you that in just a moment. So when you add all this up, you got 5% liquidity, 20% into marketing, and 23% into the quote unquote treasury and other expenses. You have a total of 48% of selling pressure just for building the node, not taking profits, just saying, hey, I want to give you 10 tokens to build this, this node, this this Nimbus thing that doesn't even exist. You get 48% of that gets sold off. That's an enormous amount of selling pressure. So the end result is you've got 100% of buying pressure at the beginning. You got 48% of selling pressure to create the node, which leaves you with 52% of positive price pressure for buying and building the node, because almost darn near half of it gets sold off. And this is what they would consider healthy. This is their idea of healthy. Okay? Let's look at this for a minute. I was going to drill down into the selling pressure again. Let's look at the 20% that goes into, quote, marketing and team. Shall we? Let's look at that. Marketing and team. You have advertisements, influencer marketing, PR, customer support, infrastructure expenses, and salaries. Now, that's basically 2 tokens. For every time you build a node, they take 2 and they put it into the team to be paid and to pay advertisement, basically give it away to influencers. PR, which, I don't know how much PR that they're spending money on, okay? Customer support, etc. Okay? We're going to tie this all together in a second. Now, the way DeFi as a service is supposed to work, let me explain this. They are supposed to take your tokens and build a treasury. That treasury is supposed to go out and purchase things like OHM, Strong Block, Time, Hector DAO, stable coin staking, whatever. Go out, Curve, whatever. Go out on the market and earn a yield. Use that yield and perform a buyback. And that's how you get your price appreciation. That's what DeFi as a service is supposed to be. In order to pull that off, you have to have a treasury. You have to have a designated, separate, autonomous wallet that is not touched, that is used just for that purpose. Otherwise, what's the point? Now, on top of this, you have their own economic system with their token. Fine, but that's how it's supposed to work. That's where your price appreciation comes from. That's where your profit comes from. That way, when you buy 10 tokens today and you build a quote node at $50, that when you go claim it, it's 150. You get what I'm saying? That's where it's supposed to come from. So logically, you need a treasury to do that, do you not? Okay. In Ring's white paper, there is no designation for a treasury. It never has been, and to this point, has not been, so far. There is nothing in here. The only thing that sounds kind of like it is Ring DeFi allocation protocol development. It's a fancy word to saying salaries, additional salaries, again, which is a double dipping because salaries is already included in marketing and team. So there is no designated treasury in here anywhere. So I would ask the question is, what are they doing? Are they just creating a token that has an invisible value that doesn't even exist? So they're not doing what they're saying they're supposed to do. Invest, use those returns, buy back the token. This all happens at a treasury. But what they're doing is very different. Let's go look at that for a minute. So I put treasury in question marks because this is the only thing that kind of looks like a treasury. Okay, is this 30% coming out of your rewards? Now, this is supposed to be temporary. If you read this, as the project is still under development, so this is not supposed to last. And the 20% in the team and marketing pool clearly is not the treasury. Obviously, that's marketing. So where's the treasury? How do you build the treasury in this instance to actually go out and buy those investments? Okay, maybe they planned on building it in and making this 30% permanent, but the way this is worded makes it out like it's temporary. But let's look at this. This is the only thing that makes sense as a quasi treasury, so we're going to go with it. In this quote unquote treasury, 30% amount is 2.33 tokens or 30%. Now, I put investments, question mark, earn yield to grow native token equals price appreciation, which is what I just explained. There's salaries coming out here, R&D, security, reward gas fees from what I understand it to be, legal and compliance. So then you have the reward pool, but where out of this do you allocate tokens for the treasury? Even if you allocate tokens for a treasury, I'm going to show you why it's still a problem. Let's move on for a minute. So remember, you have 70% to reward pool, okay, which is 70% of Ring. So 70% of the 70% goes in as rewards to come back out, but 30% of it gets sold off, okay? That's that 23% selling pressure. So the 30 goes into here, the quasi treasury, which I think is a treasury, which isn't really a treasury. And the other part goes into the reward pool. This is what I want to show you real quick. So you got this reward pool that exists, okay? But it's 70% of 70%. So theoretically, you do not get 7 tokens put into reward pool. You get 4.67 because it's 70% of 70%. 46.7% or 4.67 out of your 10 goes into the rewards pool. Okay? This pays 0.556 per day. Your one node. Let's take this on a per node basis. Your node, 10 tokens in, 4.67 go into the reward pool, but they're paying you 0.556 per day. The question I would ask you is, how long do you think that can go on for before it's going to run out, just based on your 10 tokens, and in this case, your 4.67. Well, it's pretty simple. If you take what you get paid each day, which is 0.556, which is, I know it's not exactly 0.556 because there's a tax. We'll get into that in a minute. I'm just using the rough math, okay? You divide that by the 4.67 that you put in, you have basically almost 8.5 days of total runway for this reward rate. Okay, so every node creation allows for 8 0.39 days of runway on each transaction. So I put my 10 in, 4.67 go into the rewards pool. They pay me 0.556 a day. That, based on what I put in, that's only guaranteed for 8 days, basically. 8.5 days. Okay? In order to sustain this for a month, to sustain my node, my one node that I made, my one lonely node sitting there in the Ouroboros ecosystem, for this to be sustained, I need almost 4 more to be made after me just to sustain my one node for a month. It's almost 400% more. It's like 367, so it's like basically rounded up to 4, okay? Just to sustain this for a month. Now, Ring has had some explosive growth ever since it got started, so that's how it's been able to be maintained. So let's kind of look into this a little bit. This is a completely, utterly, 100%, without a shadow of a doubt, unsustainable model. This, based on the mathematics, cannot be sustained. It can't, unless you have such explosive buying pressure, because remember, you got 48% of selling pressure, which is considered healthy just to make the node. So you get nothing but people making nodes. They start cashing out. You're already creating selling pressure with the making the nodes. So you start adding in profit taken into this. You factor in that there's only really truly 8 days of runway, that there's not truly 7 tokens going into your reward pool. Not that it would matter. This wouldn't increase it that much more. There's not even a true treasury. They're double dipping the salaries. And on top of that, there's a tax. Does this sound like something that can be maintained? Yes or no? Let's go into the tax a little bit. So every time you compound, okay, which again, considered healthy, this is what they are encouraging you to do. Compound and build more, right? That's what they say. Compound and build more. It's good for the protocol. There's a tax on all node claims. So you claim your rewards. There is then 10% of them that are taken and sold off for the native blockchain token. So the original Ring was on Binance Smart Chain. The second one, X Ring, is now on Avalanche. They both operate the same way. There's a 10% tax. The first one, 10% of your rewards get sold off into Binance Coin. On the new one, 10% of your X Ring gets sold off into AVAX. So just to compound, saying, hey, I want to compound, I want to take profit, there's no way to compound and avoid this tax. There's a 10% tax. So there's more selling pressure now to compound. Now, you're not buying 10 tokens in this transaction. However, if I say, hey, I've got X number of tokens, I want to make another node, I want to claim my rewards, you're going to get 10% of your tokens sold off. So that's an extra 10% of selling pressure. And then you're going to go through this whole process all over again. So you get the 48% selling pressure, and then you try to compound, you're going to add another 10% of selling pressure just to get into this transaction. Okay? Again, this is considered healthy. You're supposed to compound. So let's go ahead and add another 10% of selling pressure on top of what there already is, which is complete nonsense. So obviously if you sell, you got 100% of selling pressure. That's the no-brainer. The point I'm trying to make here is there's no incentive to hold. There's no incentive to compound. And if you truly understood how this works, you would know whether you compound or whether you sell, you may as well sell. You may as well sell because it's darn near close to the same amount of selling pressure if you were to compound. So let's look at this for a minute. You want to know the problem. Let me tell you one major problem that none of these protocols have figured out. Not one of them have solved this problem I'm about to explain to you. You could do this right. You could have a designated treasury. You can lower the reward rate. You can decrease the selling pressure. You can put the reward pool, the amount of tokens into the reward pool, and you can raise your runway. Maybe your runway is 30 days. Ooh, it's still not sustainable. You want to know why it's not sustainable? Because here's the one problem that none of these protocols, not even the great Louverture, has resolved. And that is this, that anytime you give tokens, I don't care if it's designated for marketing, advertisements, influencer marketing, customer support, salaries, R&D, security, legal, and compliance. I don't care. You want to know why? The only way that this whole thing works is if your token, your native token, in this case a ring or whatever, is sold off for profits, because it does not become liquid for any of these things to be used until it's sold. You want to pay your legal fees? Got to sell into profits. You want to pay your employees? You got to sell your ring token. You want to pay for advertising? You got to sell your ring token. You want to pay for security? You got to sell your ring token. So you take the selling pressure that I already showed you. This is just to build a node. But then you got the wallets, okay, aside from the reward pool, you got the wallets that are constantly selling to fulfill their obligations. It's a black hole. It's a complete and utter black hole. No protocol has solved this problem. Is the reason why you have selling pressure to build these nodes. They're taking the money, or their tokens, I should say, putting it into the reward pool. That's great. That's fine. That's good. Whatever. Okay. But then they're putting it aside for other things, and it gets sold later on. And you want to know why? There's all of a sudden you see this massive selling pressure and this giant red candle come in, and red candle after red candle after red candle. And then what do? They run more discounts to get more people in. Now you only got to give us 7 tokens instead of 10. They come in, now they gave you 7 tokens to come in, but you're still paying them the same reward rate that you were paying to people that get 10 tokens, okay? And they're now dumping, and there's no incentive to hold, and you got all these tokens in their wallets being sold off, and then they try to compound, and you add a 10% tax, which is there's another 10% of selling pressure, and then they go back through this whole process again, and there's another 48% of selling pressure, and you want to know why? There's nothing but red candles on a chart. Do I need to be, in other words, do I need to get a child to draw you a picture, as the digital asset investor would say? Do I have to get a child to come out and draw you a picture to tell you why this doesn't work? I always loved it when he said that. I mean, you don't have to be a brain surgeon, you don't have to be a rocket scientist, you don't have to be an economist in order to figure this out. So when you have a project that says we're thinking years ahead, but yet you come out with something that you darn well know is not sustainable in order to build your following, in order to get people in, to get a 7% daily reward, and then you decide to cut it 2 weeks later by 97% and you want to say you're thinking years ahead, either you weren't thinking or you're incompetent. Or you were thinking and you knew it and you just decided to lie to people. Well, that's what these projects do. And I'm sick and tired of people getting taken advantage of, and sick and tired of seeing projects like this that are completely and utterly unsustainable, that come in, they build a model like this, they forked a failing model, and they have no clue what is going on, and they have no clue why there's constant selling pressure and why, Mary Jane in the Midwest America put her life savings, not that I'm saying she should do this, into this thing at $400, and now it's worth $3. They can't seem to figure it out. This is darn near pretty simple if you just know the math behind it. So that's getting off my soapbox there. That's why these are not sustainable. Very simple. Now, I know some people are saying, oh, but there's no, people are saying that they're showing the treasury. Well, there's no designated treasury, and even Power, when Power is showing their treasury, you'll see nothing as to where they're getting those numbers from. I'll show you here. Treasury.powernode.io. If you can even get the site to load. Okay, they're supposed to have been the transparent ones showing you how their treasury worked. Okay, this is a good start. I like this. Where's the buybacks? Coming soon. Portfolio, coming soon. Stake, coming soon. Vote, coming soon. Documentation, coming soon. I mean, where did you whip these numbers out of? I could, all this was a dashboard website that creates dashboards that you pay like $60, $70 for. I looked into the source code of this. This is basically an embedded dashboard that you can get for like, I don't know, $60, $70, $100, something like that. So we have no way of knowing where in the world these numbers are. And by the way, why are you sitting, if these are true, why in the world are you sitting on almost $2 million in your treasury and you're not investing it? Isn't the point of this for you to use the treasury to go out and earn a yield, to buy back the token, to give people price appreciation? Why are you sitting on $2 million? Okay, this is your transparency here. And by the way, nobody even knows what they do with this 10% tax. Nobody has any idea what this is actually used for because there's no transparency. There's zero transparency. You don't even know who half these people are. You have no clue who they are. They're not doing what they said they were going to do. They use sleazy marketing. But let me ask the question. The question is this. Is DeFi as a service legitimate? Is it a scam completely every time you see a project, or is it legitimate? So just like, we look at automobile accidents in the United States. You have people who are drunk drivers. You have people who are texting behind the wheel. They fall asleep behind the wheel. They're distracted. They kill people. They hurt people. Is that Toyota and GMC and Ford and Honda and Hyundai's fault? Or is it the drivers behind the wheel and their fault? Okay, I don't think there's bad concepts and projects. There's just bad people. So this is a concept that is essentially, we'll just call it what it is. It's basically a hedge fund for crypto. They're going to go out and get you to yield. They're going to invest for you, etc. It's like almost like a mutual fund, if you will, for DeFi. It's actually a really great idea. I'll be honest with you. It's an idea that if you execute it properly can work. Nobody is executing it properly. Not one person. And that's why they're all racing towards zero as fast as humanly possible. Now, when you go through this and you see these numbers, it's kind of like, oh, duh, of course you're going to go to zero. Like, what is stopping that from happening? Absolutely, literally zero. Nothing, okay? There's nothing wrong with the idea and the concept, but it needs to be fixed. You've got to reduce the selling pressure, number one. Stop running discounts, number two. Stop taxing people, number three. I mean, a tax can be used if it's used appropriately, but I say stop at number three. Okay? So massively reduce the selling pressure and fix the issue with your tokens having to become liquid to solve your problems. Nobody's done it. What does that mean? You can reduce the reward rate down to 0.001% if you want, and that's fine, but it's going to eventually run out. That's the point that I'm getting at. There is only one project that I like that actually has figured this problem out, that has solved this problem. I'm not ready to talk about it right now yet. You can't find it anyway because it's not publicly available. I'll talk about it at some point, probably January, probably given, week 2, 3 weeks, something like that, whenever it's ready to be talked about. But the point I'm trying to make is DeFi is a service. It's actually a really good idea with really bad people behind it. Until you fix the people behind the project, you will not fix the project itself. So at the end of the day, I hope I showed you what this space looks like, that it can work, it can be sustainable. We need to have nothing but utter transparency in this space. We need to have projects that are audited, doxed. We need to have people who are thinking like entrepreneurs and businessmen and not just quick cash grab, blockchain experts, right? We need to have the tech, but we need to have the business. We need to have the economists. We need to have all of them in one room talking, creating these projects. And this is my opinion of the DeFi as a service space. I'm an NBA fan, and maybe not so much, lately, but if anybody has ever watched the NBA, they know that the All-Star game is it's kind of a joke in a way. It's the first half of the game is very it's very it's not really much of a game. You got big men shooting threes, dribbling down the court. It's kind of like a Harlem Globetrotter sort of experience. But then the second half starts, and that's when it gets competitive. That's when the game actually really starts. And I kind of see the DeFi as a service space going in that direction. I kind of see it in a sense where it's like, okay, we're through the first half. We've gotten the joke projects. We've gotten the fake ability to sustain this out of the way. Let the real businessmen, let the real entrepreneurs, let the real economists come in now and create real projects to figure this out. Because that's kind of where I see it going. I don't see the trend ending. As a matter of fact, in 2022, I think it'll kick up. But what you'll see is I think you will start to see more legitimate projects How long it's going to take for us to start to see those is another question. But that's kind of, that's where I see the space going. I don't see it going away. I see hopefully the real people that actually put the community first coming in. Okay. And they're going to take, I don't want to say take advantage, but they're going to basically come in when the space has failed and they're going to make it work. Okay. Because that's what entrepreneurs do. They solve problems and they help people. True entrepreneurs actually care about people. So that's what I see happening. So it's not a scam, but it is in its current model. It's a current model that cannot be sustained other than a quick, cash grab, pump and dump. That's the only way this model can be sustained. But when you get real people in that really know what they're doing, that can solve the problems that exist, then it's not a scam. The concept itself is not a scam. It's the way it's executed, and it's the people behind it that are scams. So as you go into 2022, start thinking, what are your goals, right? What do you want to focus on? Especially if you lost money in a lot of these projects. I always like to remind people this is what success looks like. It doesn't look like the left. This is what we think it's going to look like. It actually looks like the right. You go down, you come up, you go sideways, you go down, you come back up, you go sideways. Sometimes you go down for a long time, then you come back up. And this is life in general. And it's important to have goals for 2022 and to align yourself with your goals and don't get off track for those goals. And what do you want to focus on? Right? A lot of you on this channel know I'm a believer in Jesus, and sort of, my favorite scriptures sort of seem to change over time based on different things in life. And Jeremiah 9:23 through 24 is kind of what I've been focusing on a lot more lately. It's probably be what I'll focus on a lot more in 2022. And it basically goes, don't let not the wise man boast of his wisdom. Let not the mighty man boast of his might. Let not the rich man boast of his riches, but let he who boasts boast in this, that he knows and understands me, that I am the Lord who practices righteousness, justice, and mercy upon the earth. For I delight in these things. And that's kind of been my mantra lately. And so that's probably what I will be focusing on a lot in 2022. As you hit those goals, what do you do next? Because you don't ever want to be stagnant. Enjoy what you have, yes. Understand that you're going to hit hurdles, yes. But always be willing to learn from your failures and grow from your successes and grow from your failures as well. And just kind of overcome that and to maintain a positive attitude. A man thinks within himself, so he is. And if you choose to focus on the negative, if you choose to look for pain, you will inevitably find it. He who thinks he can and he who thinks he cannot are both usually right. So let's kind of keep in mind that if you're looking for opportunities, if you're looking for love, if you're looking for putting others up on a pedestal, you will have those opportunities to do that. If you're looking to attack people because they promoted something that you don't like, if you're looking to get into people's personal lives, I don't even have to talk about what this is, but if you get into people's personal lives about attacking them because they're this and they're that, and you don't like them, you don't like the group they're from, and you don't like the color of their skin, or you don't like the way they talk, you don't like the way they look, you'll find those opportunities as well. Lately, I've been just kind of posting things that I really love about other people that I've met in this space, because that's one of the great things is I've met a lot of just really amazing people, especially lately. And I just want to talk about how amazing they are. I want to talk about the things that I really love about them. So if you focus on that, and if you focus on lifting others up and walking in love and just loving life, loving Jesus, these are the opportunities you will have. So let's try to be positive in 2022. There's inevitably going to be a lot of heartbreaks and a lot of difficulties, but let's try to find and focus on the positive in that. So thank you again for subscribing. Thanks for a wonderful year, and we'll talk soon.